Did you see that?
You know, I don't know if I've like seen or watched anything that's like technically a like a new release. I've been watching a lot of My Hero Academia, which while it's not like brand new, it's like a newish anime, and I've been watching that a lot.
All right. You know, I don't watch a lot of anime. That is not a dig or a jab. That is not a world that I have terraformed for myself yet.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as someone says something like, because when you first started describing it, I was like, he's going to tell me something about this, which is going to key me into what it is. And then as soon as you said anime, I was like, I don't know anything. Thank you, though, for the keyword. Ding, 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 ding. What is it? My Hero Academia?
Yeah, I call My Hero Academia. I've been watching that. So I've been watching that with my sister. I've also been watching a lot of a reality show with my sister called Selling Sunset.
Is that about real estate?
Yes.
You look disappointed.
I'm disappointed. I'm not disappointed. I genuinely like the show. And I guess I just
grappling with something.
I am, because look, I don't want to talk like I don't want to badmouth any show. And I want to be upfront and be very real and say, like, I enjoy it. I derive entertainment from the show. So this is not meant to come from a place of negativity or hate or me trying to like trash a show. I'm on season 3, 4 episodes in. I'm going to finish the whole season. I support the show. So if you're someone that works on that show and you happen to find this, know that this is coming from a place of love.
Disclaimer.
But the thing about, have you seen any of Selling Sunset, Kirsten?
No, I've seen the show art, the reason I knew the topic in which it was about, but I've not actually seen it.
Yeah. So it's these real estate agents in LA, in West Hollywood, and it's like the top real estate agency in West Hollywood. And it is, they sell homes, but it's a reality, it's like trashy reality TV. And I only say that because I feel like that's like legit the genre. So it's like they show like a $5 million home, but then they go to like a swanky Beverly Hills restaurant and they gossip about their coworkers.
Yes, and then they're like, can you believe? And then one of them shows up from the other real estate agency and they're like, what are you doing over here? I thought you were at 57 West tonight. Are you no longer in charge of that property? What happened?
Yes, it is so much. Most of the show is one thing will happen, and then it's a bunch of different pairings of characters being like, can you believe that thing happened? And it's like, I came to confront you about that thing that happened. Well, last time we talked about that thing that happened, this is how I felt. Meanwhile, nothing is happening. Nothing new is happening.
No, nothing but that old thing.
So, anyway, it's great.
That sounds like the typical reality show. I watch a lot, so it sounds like I'm kind of on board. We need to have a rating scale. We need to come up with like when one of us pitches like hey, the thing I've been watching or listening to, like, what do you think?
Yeah.
Yes or off with her head type of thing.
Yeah.
Those are so like 1980. Mm-hmm. Anyways, we'll think on a thing to do. Anything else?
Been watching Selling Sunset. Been watching My Hero Academia. All the other things, for the most part, I don't know, we may have talked about this before, but it's like, in this time of a pandemic, that we're in, I find myself revisiting things as opposed to like looking for more new things. So even though I have being indoors more often, and there's perhaps more opportunity to watch things that I wouldn't have watched before, I get personally like I'm getting more enjoyment out of revisiting things more often than not.
It's
And
like a kid eating their old child or an adult eating their childhood snack. It's like
Yeah.
revisiting is so lovely.
Yeah. What about yourself? Kirsten?
Let's see. I have watched The Umbrella Company. No, The Umbrella Academy. That's what it is.
The first season, second season, how far into it are you?
I'm done. I already watched season 1 when it first came out.
Gotcha.
I have just in the recent week, since it's been out, seen season 2. So I'm done.
Nice. I've watched season 1, but I've heard great things about season 2. I'm excited to watch it.
Yes, and I love it because just like at the end of season 1, without a spoiler, there is again at the end of season 2 a wonderful little cliffhanger, and that's how season 1 left us. I am so excited. I'm so excited about season 3 because it left us not feeling cheated, but definitely a beautifully artistic storytelling cliffhanger of a, hey, hold your breath for season 3. So I'm super excited about that. And I love it when you can go from season to season on a show and you don't have to be like walking away disappointed. You're like, no, they were both really great and they still have me as a fan. And yeah, I loved it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great to hear. That's exciting. I like that.
Have you seen season 1?
I have. And I really like the ending to season 1. So if you're telling me season 2 is a cliffhanger, I'm like, oh, snap.
Yes. It's so good. Let's see. Oh, this is time appropriate for recording for sure, but even for posting, like I feel like it's always gonna be time appropriate. Mark, you know what else I have been watching?
What?
Just earlier today was the first public appearance of like Joe Biden now on the ticket with Kamala Harris. That was exciting.
Yeah.
Did you see that earlier?
I haven't seen it, but I heard sound bites of it, but I didn't see any of it. Yeah.
Woo! It's about to shape up to be very, very exciting. Kind of like that real estate show you were talking about. Oh man, that's kind of what politics feel like. It feels like the Real House politicians of the world is a TV show, and aliens are like, season 2020 is crazy. Because they're all like, did you hear? They're all commenting on each other's like things. It's kind of funny. Anything else? And you want to get into some Horse Girl?
You know, unless anything's pressing, I'm going to talk about some Horse Girl, you know?
Yes, Horse Girl lives inside of all of us. Mark, oh my gosh, just to tell the people, it's a Netflix movie that Mark, you told me about, and both of our minds were like, semitone kind of blown, baby. You don't own the rights to the covering of that song. Just, it's been on my spirit and it felt right to come out. So yeah, Mark found this awesome movie on Netflix. We watched it, our minds were blown, and so we started talking about it. Some people have been like, yeah, I'll check it out, it sounds super weird. Other people, as recently as last week, have been like, stop telling people about this movie, stop it.
Someone was like, please, Kirsten, stop talking about this movie. We got that.
I was like, to each their own, be blessed.
You know what I find really funny? I just want to say this is like, so when we first started, when we both were like, all right, we're both gonna watch Horse Girl, then we're gonna have a conversation about it. I think we both were anticipating talking about that movie for like 20 minutes and then moving on with our lives. Would you say that was maybe like 3 or 4 months ago? Probably.
Probably.
Like legitimately 3 or 4 months ago.
Enough time to start a cult. But yes, I think you're very close to being, if not very accurate. It has been some time.
Yeah. And it spawned several conversations between us talking about the movie, mostly just marveling about like, what, how, hey, was that? It's, I love movies that do that.
Yes. I mean, nobody's trying to convince anybody it's some like cinematic masterpiece. But it's so intriguing. And like you, Mark, I love a movie that makes you go like, wait, what? I'm sorry, what? And it made me do that multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, just to catch people up to speed who have no idea what it's about without taking too much time and kind of bringing us up to where we currently are and still, yes, talking about it. It's kind of like female white lead. It's got some notable funny people, like Molly Shannon is like her mom's best friend, but her mom is no longer with us in the storyline. But she works with this family friend who's a little older, kind of like a mother figure, if you will. She's got a stepdad figure who pops in kind of in the movie to help her out. But this main girl, living a life pretty vanilla, it kind of seems. It's so hard to say, like, in a nutshell, what this is about, but she like has a roommate who's another white female, and not that race matters that much, although it does. You must see color. In this sense, it's important to give in the description the effort to the guise of vanilla that you are made to believe this world is. They are painting a picture of kind of mundane life of this girl. Lives with a roommate, quote unquote, prettier than her, maybe more popular than her, one might say, is the image they give that relationship. A boyfriend, this roommate. Kind of muscly, you go, for the ladies in the back who are looking, right? You go, okay. Right? Muscly. He's like, yes. I think maybe Mark and I's favorite part about this roommate's boyfriend is he's like this low-key, high-key, wannabe white boy rapper, and his flow is awful, but awfully good. And it plays, and he's like flowing at a couple points in the movie, and you want to hate it, but you're like, yes, okay, I'm not going to turn it down.
No, I'm sorry to cut you off, Kirsten.
Please do. Someone needs to.
No. I could have you go for the whole time, and it would be fantastic. But just bring up that really is the part of the movie that probably tickles me the most. And I'm just kind of saying this just for myself. We got to invite him to be on the show and just talk to him about that whole thing. I feel like I don't know who this guy is. I'm sure he's great. He was a great actor. We gotta reach out to him and talk to him. It seems like he'd be down. So
yeah,
I think he'd be a great first guest for this show.
Yes. Oh my God. I have so many questions. It's like, do you rap on the side anyways? Because I think maybe so. He's like one of those actors who has white boy flow on his resume, and he writes it like that for intent, right? Because that is what one would read and go, perfect for this role, right? You can't be like, I rap and I win competitions and shit. That's too good. White boy low-key rap flow. because that's definitely one of my questions for hopefully our first guest. Even and whenever we move on from talking about Horse Girl, it lives on inside of all of us, and we hope to have him on the show at one point.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, so like by the time we meet the roommates and kind of get a sense of the mundane life of this girl, weird stuff starts to happen, and you go, maybe this vanilla is vanilla bean. There's some high quality organic vanilla bean shit in here. This is layers of flavors. And seriously weird shit starts to happen. Some of which lead ingenue character wakes up in the middle of the night, and low-key rapper boyfriend is sleeping the night with roommate. He comes out to get a drink of water. He finishes his drink of water. It's dark in the apartment, middle of the night. He turns around to go back to roommate's room where he's like, right, who he's with. And he sees main ingenue girl sleepwalking, but like up against a wall in the kitchen that he can only see her now that he's turned back around to reverse his path. She's just like silently in her nightgown facing the wall and just silently looking at this wall. Who knew shit like that could be so scary? I guess you did, especially in like haunted house type situations, but this ain't no haunted house. Again, this has been fairly vanilla until this point. And then it's one of the first super weird things that happens. Because then she like wakes up and turns around. She's like, oh, hey, sorry, good night, right?
Yeah, and by that point, you know so little. You just don't know what any of that means. They fill in a lot of it later. But in that moment, I think I told you, that was like legit scary for me. When I first watched this movie, it was late at night, and because it was nighttime, I was trying to watch the movie with the lights off. And that happened, I was just like, I need lights on. And I'm not like, I can watch scary things and be fine. But when it's like, when you get into that like psychological thriller stuff, I'm not talking about violence, I'm just talking about like horror of the mind.
Scary.
Yeah, that's what will keep me up at night. And so just at that point, you just don't know. So there's just so much you don't know. So you're just like, why was she awake? What was she staring at? What was going on?
Yeah.
And again, like they answer a lot of those questions later, but in that moment, from that point on, you're just like in this moment of like just not being quite sure. So you're off balance, you know?
Yes. What a great way to put that. Like feeling off balance. That's when people feel most scared or nervous or like, what is going on? Feeling off balance is such a great way because you go in feeling fully grounded in what it's about to be based on how it was set up, and then they go boom. You're like, whoa. And then it starts to be sprinkles of weirdness leading up to like a big weird cake, which is like delightful and wonderful because things that continue to happen. Let's see. I'm looking down at my notes to try and see. Oh, yes. Oh, there is the female roommate's low-key rapper boyfriend also has a roommate that we haven't seen yet. But he comes into the picture of the storyline because the main ingenue, again, low-key vanilla girl who, again, is made to seem kind of flower on the wall, not a lot of friends. She goes to like this dance class and tries to engage in conversation and gets like shut down hard. And you like feel really bad for her at times. You know, she's trying, but you're also like, ooh, I might say no too.
Yeah, can we talk about that moment for a little bit? So it's like,
can we?
So this is kind of like, again, earlier on in the movie, not a lot has been established. You learn that Allison Bree's character is her birthday. And Molly Shannon, who's Allison Brie's coworker, is just like, what are you going to do for your birthday tonight? Because Allison Brie's kind of like, you know, she's like a young person living in California. And Molly's just like, oh, you're young and you always work so hard. What are you going to do for your special day? And Allison Brie's just like, oh, yeah, it's going to be great. I'm going to go out with some friends and hang out. And so then after her
classic lie.
Yeah. And so after her Zumba class, she goes up to her Zoom, and it's Zumba, right? Is Zumba?
I think so.
Something like that, a dance class of some kind.
Yeah.
She goes up to the dance instructor, and I can't remember. I don't even know if she even gets the chance to ask her to hang out. She just kind of like starts to bring up conversation about like, what are you up to or what's going on? And the dance instructor, hanging out with Allison Brie is just the furthest thing from her mind. And she's not even trying to be mean.
Mm-mm.
She's just like, I don't see you as someone that I would ever socialize with.
Ever.
This class is over and I'm leaving. You know, like she doesn't even, it doesn't even register with her that Allison Brie's trying to connect. And so then Allison just immediately cuts it off. Like she doesn't push at all. And then she goes home. And it's really sad. I mean, like, it's really sad because, I mean, it's not really sad. That happens to all of us, I think, where it's just like, you know, maybe you're about to ask someone to hang out or whatever it is, and you're already super nervous and you see that it's not that way. But seeing it played out, I guess it's not really something that I see often in movies.
Yeah.
And so, because it's weird, it's like, it's a rejection, but it wasn't even a rejection.
Right. It had no malicious intent. There was no rejection. There was no pull the eject seat to get out of this moment. There was, like you said, there was just a blatant, I don't even see you as someone who I would even think about hanging out with, nor do I think you would ever ask me to hang out, and not because of who I am, but because of who the character asking potentially.
Yeah.
Right? And that message, how layered that is and sounds and even is hard to get into, is so wonderfully displayed in that scene. You're because you fully understand what is happening. What you are witnessing is hard and awkward, and you're like, yeah, I know exactly what is happening to this poor girl.
Yeah.
Because she's so genuinely trying to make a connection.
Right. And you learn from right off the bat that Allison Brie's character is a hard worker. Yeah. She works at an arts and crafts store, and early on in the movie, just the way that you see her working hard and interacting with customers, she goes above and beyond in her job. All of her coworkers really like her. She's invested in her coworkers, almost to the point where you're like, why do you care about this gig so much? That's how I thought, honestly. Like,
yeah, because they make sure to like portray her, and that's where she works with the Molly Shannon character, who is a current friend and coworker / supervisor / mother figure, and also an old friend who knew her mother, who is not actually in the movie, but is referenced often. So like, they make sure to portray her as not only vanilla, but like kind and kind-hearted and hardworking, right? You're rooting for this girl. So when you see her crash and burn, and then like as the survivor tries to run away, trips on the gas line and catches on fire even more, like you just see this tragic scene. You can't look away because it's captivatingly horrifying to witness her go through this, but it's also like beautifully portrayed.
Yeah, no, it's really well done. Yeah. Yep. And again, in the back of your head, you're just kind of like, what was that weird thing that happened earlier?
Oh wait, and let's see. And I think we may have like, I don't even know if we said those in order, but they all happen fairly in the like beginning, end of beginning part of the movie, right? Because the beginning is pretty normal, setting up the reality of the world of this movie.
Yeah.
But somewhere in here, and I think shortly after that, she's like working at this place, working hard, has the weird moment in the middle of the night with the roommate's boyfriend. But even she doesn't seem to know what's happening, right? She doesn't know she's doing the weird thing, nor has she caught on to, as a participant in the storyline, the weird things that she's doing / are happening to her. Although I will say that happens fairly quickly in the storyline, which I respected, because I'm like, I hate movies that make the characters not know what's going on. But I digress. We'll come back to that later. But around the same time as that weird moment in the night, she's got that birthday party that she tries to engage with the dance class teacher and to make birthday plans, but they fall through because of that scene. And the roommate is like, so not only did her boss ask her in hindsight, how did your plans go? But her roommate, the night of her birthday, comes home from work with her low-key rapper boyfriend. And I feel like that's the whole title. Yeah. And they don't expect to see her home because it's her birthday. She said she had plans to them too. She's home in her nightgown doing the same vanilla thing, I think, painting her toenails, watching her favorite show, maybe like Buffy the Vampire themed, right? Kind of.
Yeah, it's like this fake show that they made up for the movie where it's like there's a supernatural.
What it's called, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What were you saying about it?
Oh no, I think saying that is like Buffy the Vampire adjacent, like you said, is a great way of putting it.
Yeah, it's like you can tell she loves it, but she's at home in her nightgown, clearly not going out, clearly don't got no plans. You knew it as a viewer, but you see the character roommate and low-key rapper boyfriend realize it as they come home on birthday night. The prettier, more popular feeling roommate says like, oh no, this can't be, it's your birthday. So she also has a little humanity in her as a character, because you see her caring for her roommate and the lack of having something to do and knowing that she probably got stood up or plans fell through or whatever. So she looks at the low-key rapper boyfriend and is like, isn't your roommate home or like available? Invite him over, right? You see the like, do you want to get some of this tonight? Do you better invite him over, right? I think we all know that moment, like, do the thing I'm telling you to do, because it's not that hard, just do it. And so he invites his roommate over. This is the first time we meet this roommate. Kind of dorky, but also like low-key cute. Let's like give him a little credit. Tall, kind of dorky roommate comes over. They have a birthday night of like basically a double date, basically. And it's the cutest, most awkward. The two main ingenue and dorky tall boyfriend, or dorky tall roommate. They have a good time. They get drunk. They really like each other. It's so cute. You're like, ooh, romance alert. I like it. You're like, okay, you kind of start to forget about the weirdness because they hit you with just a little bit and then they move on with more vanilla. And you're like, okay, just one little bean in this vanilla, not a whole lot of vanilla bean, but a little bean.
And it's so interesting the way they introduce that love interest, because you're just like, all right, so am I watching like a quirky rom-com now? Yeah. Like, you still don't know what this movie is.
And they kind of lead you to think, oh, this is about to be a pity date experience, and it's about to get, because that can sometimes get worse for that person, right? Like, oh man, someone's gonna show up, they're gonna be a dickhole or like just the worst person ever. But this guy is nice. And again, little cutie alert. And you're like, again, he's kind. She gets a nosebleed. I almost did quotes, but it's like, you don't even know how weird that is yet. she gets a nosebleed. Seems vanilla. She's looking real cute. She's like, the night is going great, but then she gets this nosebleed, and she's like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And she like remembers how awkward she is and runs to the restroom and like kind of hides. And then the roommate comes in to check on her, and it's like, you okay? She's like, yeah, I'm okay. She comes back out, and again, there is an intentional scene that did not get left on the cutting room floor of the roommate and the roommate low-key rapper boyfriend talking to low-key rapper boyfriend's roommate while she's coming out of the restroom, kind of low-key talking about her, about how nerdy she is, how don't like let her weird you out. She's really, but also like, she's really nice. It's like, are they supportive or are they actually kind of dogging her? Yes to both. Because that scene was left in, and you see the girl overhear this. But again, the night is so fun. She recovers, the night recovers. They continue to make this bond. It continues to be cute. It continues to be genuine. I think there's like dancing. You hear low-key rapper boyfriend rap, I think, for the first time. And you're like, okay, I don't hate it.
And for those that haven't seen the movie, what's great is they're trying to decide what music to play, and the low-key rapper boyfriend's just like, you can play some of my music, and no one wants to hear it. So it's just like,
wait, it's the girlfriend, right?
The girlfriend is supportive, but the guy friend is not having it. And so it feels like the movie is telling you, the audience member, that this guy is corny and his rap music sucks.
Yeah.
And Kirsten and I have spoken about this before, but it's like, when you get set up for it to be awful, you're just like, well, that's not the worst rap I've ever heard.
Yeah. It's almost like when you set it up to be worse than it is, so that it, in the end, doesn't seem that bad to people. I don't know if they were so in the mix of that reverse psychology, but it was totally the impact that it had. I was like, this is not as bad as I feel like that setup was making me feel like it was about to be.
Yeah.
On top of that, the nitrous love kicked in, like in Fast and Furious, and then there was a boost of like, I actually low-key don't mind it.
And then later on in the party, there's a moment where everyone's kind of doing their thing, and he's like by himself in a corner, or like he's just kind of like off to himself, rapping along to his own music, just to himself. And you would think that you would be like, oh wow, that's lame. But the thing is, you're just like, that's endearing. This guy believes in his music. That's what my reaction was. At first I was like, that's super funny, that's super silly. But then later on, I'm just like, yo, he believes what he's saying. And that's a lot of most art, honestly, you know?
Yes, I agree. He like truly believes in himself. You know that he does, because he made the demos that they're listening to in the movie.
Yeah.
I also love that, like, that was like your reaction hearing it that like second time, just like hearing him flow to himself. Yeah. I had the reaction of, oh, thank goodness I get to hear a little bit more. And I was like, who am I trying to be right now? How did this movie just like get me like that? Because that thought was not forced. It just happened. I was like, okay, we get a little bit more. Okay. And I was pleased. Not that I needed to hear any more, but I was also pleased with the second round of the sample.
Yeah.
Let's see. Just kind of tying up the party. I think he leaves and it's real cute, and she's like, oh, I had a good time. He's like, oh man, I really like you. I had a good time too, blah, blah, blah. Semi coming off of drunkenness, right? But still in the end of fully drunk. But you just
Yeah.
and very cute, and it doesn't get weird like some movies do at this point. Like nothing bad happens to this young woman who is the lead
Yeah.
in our storyline. It continues to be cute and genuine. The night ends, you sense they may see each other again because again it's so cute. It was a well played evening of positive shenanigans with the exception of some weird moments, but those are all part of a great night. So he leaves. I think the next thing we see is low-key rapper boyfriend and girlfriend waking up the next day, like coming out of their room. Maybe not the next thing we see, but the next big pivotal point after this birthday night, they're getting dressed, headed off to work, and they see lead ingenue sleep on a like pile of pillows in the living room, still in the same outfit, totally passed out, with these huge scratches on the wall. Like claw, like maybe 4 claws, huge claw scratches on the wall. They kind of wake her up and go like, hey, what happened to the wall? She's like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm drunk, man. But still totally innocent. You don't think she did it, but you kind of know like, oh, crazy night. Maybe something happened, man.
Yeah.
They leave. They ask her to get the wall fixed. Like, just fix the wall because I guess they're renters or whatever.
Yeah.
Low-key rapper boyfriend's roommate comes back by to ask what's her name out on an official date because again ended so cute. He's been thinking about her all night. He came on back in a button-up and a tie like a gentleman and knocked on the door, had flowers or something, maybe flowers, maybe not, but still very cute. Asked her out. She says yes. Right? That seems to be the meat of that.
Yeah. Kirsten, a question for you. Since this is kind of like after the scratch on the wall, things kind of start to shift again. Do you think this is a good stopping point as we've gone for like 20, 25 minutes? The next part of the movie, things start to escalate. Does this make sense as like maybe like the end of it, not end of a chapter, but like we kind of like shift? Like
yeah, there is a I think you're right. I think there is a definite shift in tone and temperament of the experience of the journey of the next phase of the movie.
Yeah.
What? Let's see. I'm trying to think the next thing. Oh, maybe the next pivotal thing, just to touch base on, is that we get introduced to a very sweet friendship with the main actress. And what you come to find out is an old friend of hers from an earlier, maybe brief scene in the movie where you see her on a horse, or you see like a horse reference of her, like young girls riding horses, and you don't really know what that is yet. But at this point in the movie, after birthday night, the next maybe day or the next scene or whatever, you see main actress she drives to a friend's house who's of the same age, but has the mind of a young girl of the age of that flashback scene of the young girls riding horses, because we come to find out this girl she's going to visit is of the same age because they grew up together, riding horses together, where they were young friends. And the friend she's going to visit in real time at this point in the movie fell off the horse as a young girl and got a brain injury, so is still that age mentally. They make it a point when she goes to visit this character to not only, again, kind of exponentially support the idea that Alison Brie, the main character, is a very kind-hearted character, and you root for her because she's nice, she's sweet, and she loves people and her place in this life. Because she goes to visit her mentally challenged friend from her childhood, and they make it a point to show how slowly she walks. She has short-term memory challenges where you can tell the conversation starts over again while they're out on a walk.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I think that relationship is just such a supportive net of supporting the type of character that Alison Brie plays. And it also has this weird duality of not starting to slash away at, but starting to give you another layer of the Alison Brie character, because she immediately, or so it seems, goes to, I have a boyfriend land. Like, with this friend she goes to visit, technically the friend with the mental challenges does, of that age, ask the question in a way of like, do you have a boyfriend? Right? Like young girls may do.
Yeah.
And so she's kind of fed the offer and then replies to it. But I do think the intentional or not, right? The impact of that scene also, to me, supported that she like is eager for love.
Yeah.
Not in a thirst trap way, but in a, she hasn't had it, nor does she really know it, and she's getting a taste of it, and she really likes it.
Yeah.
I think that's what the main things about that kind of relationship point.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Okay, yes. On her way home from that, she is driving home. You see her look over at some water towers, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then that scene like ends and she's maybe back home or something.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, something weird happens on her way home because her car goes missing. She like wakes up the next day, goes down to like get in her car, and it's like gone. I think I'm getting this in the right order. I think it's after that visit with the friend. And this is where we meet the stepdad, Gary,
mm-hmm.
because he's still, I guess, on the title or something. And so what happens is the car was left, I think, still running, keys in it. Somewhere you come to find near these water towers she stopped and was looking at after coming home from visiting her friend, and it was towed. They called the Gary character. When she goes to report it missing the next morning, I think Gary calls and is like, hey, I got your car, like the tow truck or something, or the tow place. So we meet Gary.
Yeah.
What do you think of Gary?
Played by Paul Reiser, I want to say.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. You know, Gary the dad, nice guy, but it's just like he feels guilty that I think it's established that he's Alison Brie's stepdad. Mm-hmm. And I can't remember how Alison Brie describes him, but I think maybe he describes him as her ex-stepdad almost.
Yeah, and like he kind of makes it a point to be like, I'll always be here for you.
Yeah. Because I think you only see him in this one scene, right? Like it's very brief. If he's in another scene, it's just very brief, whatever you do see him in. But you get the sense that Gary feels kind of guilty. Again, we don't really have the full story as to why he feels guilty, but I think he feels like, oh, I don't really give you as much attention as I should. And Alison Brie's character's like, no, it's fine. And he's like, no, but really it's not. And when I first heard that, I was just like, oh, just seems like a fairly typical, like father-daughter relationship where maybe they just don't see as much of each other as they probably should. But then you kind of find out later that there may be more to that, honestly, to those comments. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think even a little bit in that same scene where we meet Gary, because they hint to in the writing and the way they shot the scene, like she asks about her mom, because we learn that her mom, who again we don't ever actually meet in the story, like I love the idea of the invisible character. Hate it for real life theater, but love it for storytelling, right? Because it adds context. Mom, who we never meet, we do learn had problems. I was almost gonna say, like psychologically, we get the sense of like she struggled with something, and we think they hint to took her life, and so is no longer in the picture. And so Gary's sense of, well, the tie that bound us is no longer here. Yeah. And so that sense of feeling bad in that regard as well, but like wanting her to know, like, but I'm still a father figure for you. Like he offers and gives her a whole lot of money. Because I think because it's recently been her birthday. He has a birthday card with like a stack of hundos in it. Like a stack of hundos, not like a gangster stack, but like maybe $1,000, maybe 10 hundreds, right?
It's a lot of money. It's a significant amount. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we move on from Gary, I think. But again, before we fully move on, I think it's important to know that like this is where we start to hear about her mom having problems and Gary having knowledge to that and her inquiring what was up with her, what was going on when all that was happening. And he's like, why, right? And you can tell there's a sense of like, people don't really talk too much about mom or the issues that she was having. And that everyone loves the Alison Brie character, everyone loved her mother character, but nobody really like, for real, it's not taboo, but nobody like for real talks about it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think, if I'm not mistaken, we get another sprinkle of super duper weird sauce.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how and when we get here, but I think, oh man, I think like at the end of whatever day that is, Alison Brie's character, the main character, like she goes to go to sleep and it's like 11:40, let's say. And then, because they make it a point to show what time it is, and she puts her like phone down, right? We can all see time on these digital devices. So they make it, and there's a clock next to her bed, I believe. They make it a point to not only let you see what time it is, but it becomes a storytelling point of importance, because she goes to sleep at, let's say, 11:40. A whole scene happens where time lapses. And I'll go back to it, but, oh no, I'll hit it now. We see like this series of like, I think her and a couple other people in like a white space. I don't want to give that away. I think we see a little bit of that, some weirdness. We also see a door that light is shining through above a body of water. Oh my God, it's so creepy. But it's like, not scary things are not surrounding it. Nothing is happening, coming in or going in or coming out. But there is a door of light hovering above water. And as someone who watches like Ancient Aliens, I'm like, hello. Okay, we're just gonna gloss over that because we just see that. There are no actors in that scene, and no, like, there's just a door of light above water. Notable, if nothing else. We also find, I think, at the end of that scene, that Alison Brie, the character, is at a payphone in the middle of the night. Still dark, still in her PJs. Her PJs are on backwards now. And the payphone that she's in front of, no, she has an iPhone. We just saw her set an alarm before she went to sleep. it's off the hook. So there's a dial tone, which is also this like low key old school element of creepy and suspense that you're like, oh shit, I forgot how creepy a dial tone was. Cause you don't get that on an iPhone. When's the last time you heard a dial tone, Mark?
I don't know. Years. Yeah.
Right. Let alone the last time anyone's engaged with a payphone, but like the sound in the middle of the night of a dial tone with someone standing in front of a payphone with their PJs on backwards, and they're button up PJs, right? It's not like a t-shirt that's on backwards. It's button up. So that's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's like when a murderer redresses you and it's like reverse because they do it backwards. It's a sign of creepiness.
Yeah.
Okay. She has to, in what they make you think in the movie, and what I think happens, correct me if you think something different, she has to walk home in the middle of the night, and she has to knock on her own apartment door to wake up her roommate to let her in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
At this point, she starts to realize, you as the viewer, I think, start to realize she is a sleepwalker of some serious degree, and some potential weirdness is happening.
And this is where I started to like Alison Brie's roommate less, because I felt like her response to her showing up wasn't very compassionate.
It was very cold.
Yeah. And I'm just like, you know, yes, there's a scratch on the wall, but I mean, like, if I saw my roommate that I already knew was kind of like very closed off, very introverted, and they show up kind of concerned, sweaty and dirty from walking out outside, you know, my response wouldn't be to be cold. It's like, are you okay? Like, are you all right? You know, like,
yeah.
And I know that they don't talk a lot, but I think her coldness in that moment really kind of, not to blame anything on her, but I felt like that was sort of like the root of a lot of miscommunications that sent things south, you know?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that wasn't it left in the movie on accident, right? I do think like that is such a notable observation, because it was like she knocked on the door, she answered it. And yes, if you get woken up in the middle of the night, you may be perturbed, right? Even if you got like a early morning alarm to get up for, you might be perturbed. I feel that. But it was so intentionally like, what the, ugh, like, and the Alison Brie character was like, hey, I'm sorry, I got locked out. I think I'm sleepwalking. Like, again, showing concern for something, right? Clearly. And so, yeah, you start to think, oh, maybe this is kind of a not cool roommate character. Because I do think early on it's a somewhat of a surprise that she is compassionate, does kind of force her low-key rapper boyfriend to invite the roommate over, because she intently seems to care about her roommate and the fall through of plan for the birthday. And all of that storytelling worked to make you think like she's a good person. Maybe she still is. Can't judge someone on one night, but also, yeah. And yes, the wall is still not fixed, and they make it a point to like every encounter past the first time the roommate saw the scratches, she continually is like, did you get the wall fixed? Like, that's the only thing I've asked you to do. Can you just get the wall fixed? Yes, I think, oh, so she gets back inside, Alison Brie's character, and I think before she goes back to sleep, because again, it's the middle of the night, and I have some feels about it on the back end, but I kind of want to say I respect that the writers kind of, and maybe it was an actor choice too, respect to the actor making choices, respect the level of observatory care given to the Alison Brie character. She is not a low-hanging fruit of a female lead, which sometimes we are put in those roles, right? We're put in the female lead, but by chapter 6 of the DVD, we're falling for, our heart is broken, or we're fiending after dick for some reason. It always seems to be kind of one or the other, and if it's in between, it's like weak sauce. So I really valued that, like, she seemed friendless and lost, but she seemed smart. And at this point in the movie, she starts to realize, after this second very clear weird moment as a character, like a person watching the movie, you start to go, something weird is going on. And so she starts to investigate. She's home now, she's on the computer, and she's looking up lost time, because when she gets back to her room, the clock says it's and I may get the time wrong, but again, it's like, for example, 11:40 is when she went to bed before this whole scene developed. She gets back after this weird encounter. What, 2 minutes have passed? It's like 11:42 or some shit.
Yeah.
And so she has lost time, basically. Mm-hmm. Or some might think, if you're really into the life, she hasn't lost time, but she's added time to a time continuum that could not be added. Like, only 2 minutes have gone by, and somehow she has added a whole life worth of time in 2 minutes. And she goes, like, what? And so she starts to Google or search or whatever. And I think at this point in the movie, we're a little over like 30 minutes. Let's say a little over 40, because I earmarked a 43. This is one of the first times in her nighttime internet research, we hear the word alien and abduction in her time loss research. Because that's like a real thing. Not that alien abduction isn't, we don't know. But like, people post stories, even in real life and in the life of this movie world. So she finds people who have lost time as well, and unexplained experiences, which I think is really interesting, because again, I like the fact that she seems to be being portrayed as a smart leading lady.
Yeah, and yeah, I agree with those are great points, Kirsten. And I think this is also kind of an interesting shift, because she's sort of taking the reins a little bit, in the sense that, you're kind of seeing these things happen to her in the first chunk of the movie. Like, she gets rejected, but she doesn't really ask, like, she meets a guy, but he asks her out, But here's the thing where it's just like, all right, enough weird things have started happening to me. I'm searching this. I'm getting to the bottom of this. And then we're kind of starting to see her go down this rabbit hole a little bit. And I don't know if it's technically like halfway through the movie, but it is definitely another one of those shifts where we're kind of like, the movie's kind of like shifting into a different gear. Not sure how you feel, Kirsten. Maybe this is because it's like halfway-ish. Maybe this is the point where we stop, give a pause here for the episode. We pick up second half next episode, maybe, now that she's sort of like, all right, I'm trying to get to the bottom of what's going on.
Yes, I'm down.
So we're going to maybe cut things off right here. There's still a bunch more to talk about Horse Girl. We're only about halfway through. There's a bunch more. It gets even more wild. So we'll catch you back next time on Did You See That?
Did you see
Did you see that?